Hey there, dog people. Welcome back to the channel. Today, a really quick little tutorial on a drone that I made, on drones in general, I suppose. If you guys don't know what it is, a drone is basically a sound, usually a single note that plays in the background of a track and sort of fills up some space, has some atmosphere, and has a few other purposes and uses. And we're going to talk about them today. I used a drone in this track. I use a drone in almost every track. I find it's a really good way to add some ambience. You can play with them a lot, so you can sort of get different types of ambience from them. But they're really useful. One of the things I really like them for is really rooting the key of the song. So in this song, we're in D major, and this plays D, E, D. The E, we have a chord switch. It goes up to an A chord. So having the D just sounded a little bit weird. But anyway, I'm going to play this drone in context of the track, and we can talk a little bit more about it. So I'm going to turn it off sort of halfway through. You can hear sort of how much space it fills up. So one thing about drones is they usually work best playing, unless you're going for a really specific thing, they usually work best hitting the tonic or like the fifth of the scale that you're in, just to sort of reinforce the key. And also just if they're out of key or if they're hitting sort of the weaker notes of a scale, it stands out a little bit less, and oftentimes it can lead to some sort of weird frequency clashing. I find usually if you're just playing the tonic of the key, the root note, it works pretty well in context of every other thing. And sometimes that little bit of clash that you get if you're, playing a seventh chord or something like that can add just a little bit more extra to the thing. I also wanted to talk a little bit about this specific drone because it's one that I use quite a bit. I made it in Wavetable, which is something I've been playing around a lot with, is the new Wavetable. And it's really simple. One thing I really like with drones is to create a little bit more of sort of an ambient effect using them. I really like my drones to have quite a bit of motion to them. I like them to sort of be automated, whether it's, panning or whatnot. In this specific drone, I'm using Wavetable. The second wave doesn't move at all. It's sort of halfway between a triangle and a saw. It's just there to hold a note. The first oscillator, though, is using LFO1. And it's sort of fluctuating inside of the wavetable so we can hear it. It's almost got kind of a brassy quality to it, which is kind of interesting. But that's one I really like, and I liked where it's sitting in the mix. And one of the ways I got it to sit way back there, I compressed the heck out of it just to make sure that nothing was really peaking or anything. I saturated it a little bit just to add a few more frequencies, make it a little bit warmer, a little bit more full of a tone. I put a lot of reverb onto this. I upped the decay. It's at 40%. You can hear it's pretty swampy of a sound. It sounds very sort of full and sort of lush. And then I EQ'd pretty heavily. I didn't want any real low end. I didn't want any high end. I just wanted to sit in sort of those mid-thousands way in the back and just sort of have that note being held there. Sometimes I use more high-end drones, so something around the 2,000 range, but for this specific track, I had a lot of low-end and I had a lot of high-end, and I felt like my drones sit nicely sort of in this range. The other thing I really like doing with drones is more or less cutting out the mids. Here's a mid-side EQ, so if we look at... what am I doing? Here we go. If you look at the mids, they're really heavily cut. I really wanted mostly side. I like my drones to be very spread. As I mentioned before, I like them to have a lot of motion. I like using them to add atmosphere. I like using them not only to root the key of the track, but also just to add a lot of atmosphere. I like them to fill out sort of the sides of the spectrum. And that's really what I'm using this one for. There's auto pan, so it's moving a little bit. It's not a ton of auto pan, but it's moving a little bit side to side, and then the EQs are making it so it's mostly just on the sides. I could have cut out all of the mids, but I still want a little bit of it bleeding through. Come to the drop. I actually am going to cut all of the mids. I just haven't automated it yet. But anyway, there's a kickstart at the end just to make sure it's out of the way of the kick. It's not all the way out of the way of the kick. There's not a ton of low-end hitting anyway in this particular sound, and there's none in the mids, so I probably didn't even need to sidechain out of the way of the kick. I just like having that little dip. And anyway, that's a drone. That's this specific drone as well. They're really useful. Highly recommend checking them out if you don't use them in your tracks. They're a great way to fill up space. They're a great way to add some atmosphere. They're a great way to sort of ground your track to its key. And I don't know if this video was helpful. If it was, let me know in those comments below. And yeah, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of stuff. I think I might make more of these super quick tutorials from time to time. So let me know if there's anything in those comments down below. This is way too long of an outro. I will catch you guys later. Here's that drone again.